The next item of business is 2000 Crystal Springs Road. It's a request for an amendment to a developmental plan, a plan development permit, and architectural review permit to allow the construction of a new recreation and leasing building and conversion of the existing recreation building into 4 apartments per sections 1296.190J, 1296.190K, and 12108 of the San Bruno Municipal Code. Staff report, please.
Thank you and good evening. The application that's before you next tonight is for changes to the Crystal Springs Terrace Apartments. As you probably know, it's located at 2000 Crystal Springs, just down the road from here. The complex currently has 433 units. It has 628 parking spaces, a recreation building, a couple of swimming pools, significant landscaping spread throughout the site, and all of this is on a little over 12 acres is the total site. The complex was constructed in 1972. There were changes approved by the City Council and Planning Commission in 1974 and 1989 that were a little bit more significant, and then some minor things have been changed there over the years. So I wanted to start by orienting you a little bit to the project site so that you'll have some of these locations in mind as we move through the different parts of the project. And so moving from north to south down the site, I've circled for you in red some of the significant locations. And so the first thing that's circled there is the existing recreation building. Moving down the site a little bit is the existing main entrance. And so this is what you're probably familiar with if you've driven to the site before. At that location is where they have a small leasing office that's basically in a residential unit space at this time. Next, moving down is that kind of triangular green area. In that location is where they're proposing a new parking lot. And then down at the southern portion of the site is where they're proposing a new recreation and leasing building. And this is the larger surface parking lot as it exists today. This surface parking lot down at the bottom has 2 existing driveways. One is for entrance and one is for exit. So the project has 3 major components to it that I'd like to go through one at a time for you this evening. The first is the new recreation and leasing building. The color rendering is shown here for you, was also included in your packet. It's proposed at that corner of the existing parking lot that I was just discussing, approximately where the exit driveway is now. The remaining driveway that's been used as the entrance driveway would be expanded so it would accommodate 2-way traffic. The building itself is proposed to have a little over 3,000 square feet on the first floor, about 2,400 square feet on the second floor, for a total of 5,470 square feet. It's proposed to include a leasing office, fitness area, game room, and resident lounge area. So it would consolidate quite a few different functions that they have spread throughout the site now and provide a more sort of contemporary amenity that people have come to expect from this type of apartment complex. The architectural style of the building is really inspired by a lot of buildings that we might find in nature or in the mountains. It's designed to complement the site there at the edge of the city limits and by the park. And the architect is here and can speak more to the design a little bit later on. It's proposed to have a stucco exterior, metal roof. You can see the trellis and the beam features really break up that front facade. The kind of wood appearance of those things really brings some warmth to the design. They've also proposed to recess the windows approximately 7 inches, so that will provide some light and shadow around all of those window openings. They've also integrated the monument sign into the design, which was a request from the Architectural Review Committee, so it's presented here this evening for you. There's some changes proposed to the circulation in order to accommodate the location for this new building. And with those changes to the circulation, some new landscape areas are created, and some of the parking is realigned, and all the parking is restriped with the project in this immediate area. They have included a range of plants that include some that we all know commonly, lavender, fountain grass, and daylily, as well as a significant number of new trees in the area of the new building. They're removing the existing garbage and recycling area in order to accommodate that new circulation pattern. And so they have proposed a completely new structure for trash and recycling. It is included in your plan set. The architectural style is designed to complement the new building, and it has been reviewed by the Recology staff, which is formerly San Bruno Garbage, and they do find that the capacity will be sufficient, and we've added a condition of approval that we just do one final site visit with the Recology staff to make sure we've anticipated any potential issues, but we're not aware of any at this time. The second major aspect of the project is the conversion of the existing recreation building into 4 new apartments. And so that's the little building on the top of this slide here. It does have a little bit different architectural style than the rest of the complex. They're doing some things to kind of integrate it back into the complex with this project. Although the basic style would remain, they're proposing new exterior materials, including composition roofing, siding, new windows, and it would be painted that off-white color to match the rest of the complex. So it would be 2 units on the lower floor and 2 units on the upper floor. This increase in density does require an analysis of whether 1284 applies. As you're well aware, that's a limit on density throughout the city. The applicant has supplied their attorney's opinion, which staff does find to be a reasonable analysis of the situation. But the final determination on this issue will need to be made by the City Council because it is a policy issue. But their memo is included as an exhibit to your staff report, so that it would be part of the public information and so that you would be aware of that process as well. The third major element of the project is a new parking lot. And so I've included it here just as a reminder. You've probably seen it in your plan set. It's kind of pie-shaped. It's included on one of your landscaping sheets. It's proposed near the southern end of the site in the area of existing landscaping. So overall, the project would reduce the landscaping from 30% of the site to 29% of the site. And so it is a pretty small reduction in landscaping area in a site that's quite large and has a good amount of landscaping. The new parking lot would accommodate 11 net new parking spaces. So some would be reconfigured, a couple would be removed to provide access for a total 11 new. And again, that's for 4 residential units. So it actually exceeds the standard that's in the municipal code for multifamily housing. They've proposed to construct this parking lot with pervious paving. And so this is a pretty significant green building goal to increase the amount of infiltration on site. So staff is very supportive of this approach to the parking lot. The site there it does have some slopes to it, so there are going to be some retaining walls that close in this parking area. So to mitigate the appearance of that, the applicant has agreed to include planting pockets and vines so that vines will be able to grow up those retaining walls and soften the appearance of the parking lot. There are also several new trees in this area. So a couple would be removed, but then several would also be replanted. And there's also one minor change to the site that I had briefly mentioned, and that's the conversion of the small leasing office back into a residential unit. And so those are the summary of the changes that are proposed, and the rest of the complex would remain unchanged with the project. So I'd like to turn now to the architectural review. The Architectural Review Committee heard the project on June 10th, and there's a minor mistake in the staff report. It was actually heard by Commissioners Biasotti and Mishra and Chair Chase. At that time, there were a number of recommendations. I've included all of those in the staff report, as well as what actions they have taken to address those, but I just wanted to give you a couple of highlights. They did implement recommendations in regards to trash enclosure, signage, and green building. They updated the front elevation of the new building. They added some additional architectural detail, signage, increased the length of the trellis, which I think achieves the intent of breaking up that front facade a little bit more. They've changed the color of the main building, the main body color, so they propose it to be the off-white color that would match the rest of the complex. In the rendering that you have, the color is a little bit bright white, but they have clearly indicated to staff that it would match the residential buildings, which is a little bit hard to replicate in the rendering, as you know. They have also updated the drawings to address some concerns that were expressed about site visibility for drivers that are leaving the complex. So that kind of summarizes where they've come from the Architectural Review Committee meeting. To notify the public, staff sent a courtesy notice and a legal notice to to all the residents within 300 feet. We also added the neighborhood to the northwest of the project that is out of the 300-foot radius, but knowing that they may be interested in the project as well. We've received comments from one neighbor. Since the staff report was prepared, I have received additional phone call from her. She has expressed concerns that the proposed parking will not be sufficient for the new units. That in fact, people from the park complex park on the 280 overpass and sometimes all the way up to London Court. And so there are always going to be some challenges working on a constrained site, but I wanted to deliver that message to you that she has an ongoing concern about the parking at that location. So I would just like to turn now to the process and the next steps. Since this application includes an amendment to the development plan, it does need final approval by the City Council. Before you tonight are two resolutions that I just wanted to go over and summarize for you. Resolution 2010-10 recommends that the City Council approve the amendment to the development plan, and notably the development plan itself is included as an attachment to that resolution that you have before you. And then the second resolution is 2010-11, and that is a recommendation that the City Council approve the plan development permit and the ARC permit. And the proposed conditions of approval are included as an attachment to that resolution. So in closing, staff would like to note that the applicant has worked with staff through this process. It has taken us quite a while to get to this point. They have addressed site visibility, fire lane access, circulation, and they have made design changes that we've requested through this process. So given all of that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt resolutions 2010-10 and 2010-11 and forward the project to the City Council. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the Commission have any questions for staff? Thank you. And is the applicant present? Okay, we'd like to now open the public hearing and bring you forward to present your project.
Good evening, Commission members. Thank you very much for your time this evening. And there's just, I think that Laura did an excellent staff report, but there are a few things that I'd like to add to the comments that she made. But the first thing that I'd like to say is that I really want to thank Laura for all of her hard work on this project. I think we started this process at a conceptual level back in, I believe it was January of '08. So we've been at this for 2.5 years, basically. And the project has sort of started and stopped for a series of reasons, but one of the things that's been very consistent throughout the process is Laura's diligence in helping us to get it to this meeting and to this point tonight. So I just wanted to let you know that, and she's doing excellent work, and we really appreciate it as the applicant.
Thank you.
When we first conceived of this project and when the owner came to us and said that they wanted to create a consolidated leasing function and common use amenity recreation function on the property, we had a few different options, and the first of those options was to look at where the existing recreation or common use facility sits on the lower part of the site and look at a way to possibly impart the leasing function within that building, and then sort of upgrade the common use facilities for the residents. What we realized in going through that process, and we realized pretty quickly, is that the intensity of all of those multiple uses superimposed onto that building would obliterate the structure of that building. So it would end up essentially being a tear down. And the other aspect of that is that we didn't feel, in looking at it with the owner, that it was necessarily the best place located on the site to have this leasing and recreational use facility that would accommodate the whole property. It sort of occurs on the lower part of the site. It doesn't have the best daylight exposure or the best views. So we walked the site and we looked at this upper portion of the site where we're representing the building today, and it just fit for a variety of reasons. The first being that it's on the higher end of the site, so it has much better views and visibility, has much better daylight exposure, and we believe that in situating it in that location, it would serve as sort of a visual anchor or a promontory, which would be visually obvious from all different parts of the site. So it wouldn't be sort of tucked away in the same way that the existing building location is. The other important aspect to relocating and building a new building on the upper end of the site was that it gave us the opportunity to take and reuse the existing, what is currently the existing recreational facility, and as Laura was describing, convert that into 4 new dwelling units. And we are actually able to accommodate that within that existing building with very little structural change to the building. In fact, the only thing that we're doing to the building on the exterior is modifying windows, because now we have 4 units as opposed to a large gathering space on the upper floor. We're going to change the siding out on the upper floor of the building so that it's a lap siding material that's analogous to the lap siding that's on the existing residential buildings. And then everything that's happening to the interior of the units to create those 4 divided units is all non-load bearing interior partition walls. So we're able to save the primary structure of the building with very little disruption to it, and basically reuse it, which we think is a sort of falls in line with the green concepts that we're moving toward in the industry now. So we think that that's probably, of all of the green things that we're doing, I think that that's probably the most important piece. In terms of the architectural style of the new building, you'll see from the image there that it is a departure from the form and massing of the existing residential buildings, and there's a couple of good reasons for that. The first being that with these common use facilities and multifamily developments, we do want them to be sort of obvious visual anchors. We wanted the structure to be compatible, but we also wanted it to be aesthetically different, and we wanted it to be something that would stand out. The other part of that is that the existing residential buildings are very simple 2-story structures with a single ridge line running across the whole structure, so you sort of have 2-story walls and then 1 ridge line. This building is a little bit taller, and in order to impart that kind of style on a building that has this much function in it, it would be a cumbersome and much more massive building. And so we feel that this configuration very much articulates the multiple uses that are in the building. We have steeper steeper roof pitches, so we're showing off the roofing material, whereas on the residential buildings you have a comp shingle roof that you don't see very much of the roof surface because of its shallow pitch. On this building we're at a, what is it, Jimmy, a 7 and 12 or 8 and 12 pitch, and we're using a standing metal seam roof. So it's a much more aesthetic roof, we believe, and also in terms of its durability, we feel that it's going to be a very lasting type of a material. The other part of, and the issue of compatibility came up in the architectural review meeting that we had, and so we talked about a variety of things that included form. I think that we did a pretty good job of trying to articulate the ground floor, the entry level of the building a little bit better by extending the trellis across a wall that before the trellis was expanded and the monument sign was added, that first window wall at the first level of the building was kind of plain compared to the rest of the elevation. So we think that this really solves that as far as articulating the building all the way around and up and down. And then the other question that came up was related to the paint scheme of the building. And so we had previously shown a paint scheme that was just entirely foreign and entirely different in terms of its tone from the paint scheme on the residential buildings. And what we've committed to on this, and as Laura said, unfortunately the rendering doesn't show this very well, but the main body color of this new building will match the main body color of the residential buildings. The residential buildings then are trimmed with a color which I would describe as a sort of a deep or a forest green, which it wasn't a color that we felt would be an attractive color on this new building, but we felt that if we changed the body color out and the primary building color, that we could then articulate it with trim colors that were different than the trim colors that you see on the residential building. So this is, in terms of the paint scheme, the one part that will stand out. This is kind of a conscious way of us trying to differentiate those two structures. The other thing that we responded to, a couple of other questions that came up in the architectural review, was one of visibility. There was a concern with this new two-way entry drive, whether or not we would have appropriate visibility coming in and out of the site. And a couple of things that we did is we specified plant material that won't grow more than up to a certain height so that we don't block views in and out of the driveway. And we also scaled back and reduced our monument sign so that as it moves toward the street, as somebody is coming out of the property, their view isn't blocked from people coming back down the hill. And I think that in walking the property with Laura and looking at that and just kind of walking in and out of the driveway, we feel now that it has very good visibility coming in and out. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And I think that Laura did a good job of giving you a sort of a snap picture of what we're doing. We're really excited about the building. We think it's going to be a very nice enhancement to the property, not to mention the fact that we're also getting some additional housing stock by converting the existing building. So thank you for your time listening, and I'm here to answer questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Does the commission have any questions? Hearing none, thank you. Commissioner Mishra.
Through Chair. I just wanted to thank you for the green list.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
presentation. Let you now open it to the public. Is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on this project? Please step forward, state your name. Okay, take your time. Oh, there's a microphone coming to you.
Good, thank you. I just want to know about the parking. They say
If you can
it's
speak directly into the microphone, state your name and the street that you live on in the city,
okay.
please.
I live on London Court in Crestmore. I'm the property owner there. My name is Gloria Kauke. Can you hear me?
Yes, you may take a seat if you'd like.
Oh, thank you.
If the gentleman in front of you, if you can just step for a moment inside.
I want to know about the parking. They
Yes.
say only 11 parking spaces are being added to this unit. Is that correct?
Okay. I'll make note of your questions, and then we'll address them all at the same time, and then either the planning director or the project manager will come back to
Okay.
address those.
I wanted to know if there were going to be sufficient parking, because right now as it is, there are several people from Silver Terrace that come and park all the way up on the top where we live and are using our parking spaces up there. I don't know why, but they do. And if this is added on, I want to know if they're going to start doing the same thing. We need our parking spaces up there. They shouldn't be used by people down below. The overpass is completely full of automobiles in the evening, so that takes care of that. And now I have one person from Silver Terrace that comes and parks around my property every day. He takes his bike off the back and takes off, comes back in the evening, gets his bike back on, goes back home. On the weekends, he brings his car up on Thursday and picks it up on Monday. So, you know, we have people up there that have teenage children now. They're getting cars. We look like a parking lot up there now. Now, if this is going to add to our problem, I need to know that.
Is there anything else?
That's it.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to comment? Okay. Hearing none, public hearing is now closed, and I'd like to bring it back to our planning director. If you could address those areas, so I'd be happy to bring up the applicant.
Sure, and actually I'll ask Laura. She's the project manager for this, so
Okay.
she could address the parking issue.
We have observed people parking on the overpass of 280. I think it is logical to assume that those likely could be residents of Crystal Springs. The project proposes 4 residential units and 11 parking spaces. The standard municipal code requirement for multifamily units is 2 parking spaces per unit. So the project is actually proposing to provide more parking than would be normally required by the code. The project does have an existing parking situation that is less than what we would consider to be today's standard. So what was approved in 1972 and 1974 is less than what we would normally see today. So there is a lower parking ratio at that location now than the code. But the new units are going to have greater than the code. So the parking ratio at the site will improve slightly. Remember, it's very large, but it will improve slightly with the project. Also, we've worked with the applicant to maximize the kind of usability of the new parking spaces, given the constraints. And we've also been working with the applicant on an overall parking management strategy that helps to do things like free up the fire lanes and bring awareness to parking at the complex, which the applicant has made those commitments to work with us on some of those items. So staff does feel that the applicant has gone maybe slightly above what would be required for this, although we do sympathize with the fact that people like to park where they like to park sometimes. But it's an existing condition that we don't think will be made worse with the project.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Bringing it back to commission discussion. Okay, this is a resolution. 2 resolutions, each one independently. So, Planning Commission is it a? It's not a. It's actually not a motion. So it's the Planning Commission adopt the resolution 2010-10, recommending the City Council approve the amendment of the development plan. And roll call, please, on that.
Actually, typically what we do is a motion and a second, then I'll take roll call on the resolution.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion and we adopt Resolution 2010-10.
Second?
All those in favor?
Now we'll do a roll call vote.
That's right.
All right. Commissioner Samut?
Thank you.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Aye.
And Commissioner Mishra?
Aye.
Resolution passes 4-0.
The second resolution is to adopt Resolution 2010-11, recommending the City Council approve the Plan Development Permit 09-001 and Architectural Permit 09-005.
Through the chair. Motion that we adopt Resolution 2010-11 and Plan Development Permit 09-001 and Architectural Review Permit 09-005.
Second?
All those in favor? Sorry.
Commissioner Samut?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Aye.
And Commissioner Mishra?
Aye.
Motion also passes 4-0.
Thank you. It's hard to break those habits.